the CHALL, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel, and welcome to a very special video. Now, I've been teasing something very exciting today, and it's coming out on the Friday, so the day after we've recorded it, but I teased something was coming out on Friday, and you see the title of the video. We're not letting you down here. We're going to be chatting about Arsenal and Doncaster Rovers, because the two share the same colours, red and white, even though I'm wearing the away kit today, but we've got an incredible history between us back in the early days of football and a couple of recent fixtures. And who better to speak about Arsenal and Donny Rovers with than with the guy who's given fans a voice since just a few years ago. In just a few years of space, he's given fans a voice and he's given fans a time to come back into the game and be just as important as the players, the managers, the backroom staff and the boardroom. It's the one and only Robbie from AFTV. Robbie, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, thanks. I love that intro. That's a nice intro. Thank you very much. No, doing well. We got a game tonight, so against Liverpool. So just sort of chilling out before we get into that. It's going to be a long night. So when you go to Anfield, sometimes it's a very long night. So, but no, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
I'm really glad to hear that you're excited about this. And, you know, obviously, as a disclaimer, guys, I'm not going to be talking about the EFL Cup match tonight because, of course, this is going out on the Friday, so we'll have the result by then. But either Robbie will be happy or be sad. So we'll have a result either way. But, of course, the main focus of today is talking about the history of Arsenal and Doncaster Rovers, talking about the direction of each club, where we're going, and speak about our next league games, because, of course, we, as Rovers fans, have Wigan Athletic on Saturday, and, of course, Arsenal have got Sheffield United, and then they've got a big game after that in the league, so it's going to be very exciting to speak about. We're going to speak about some other topics as well. Tyrese John-Jules, the Arsenal youngster on loan at Rovers, we're going to speak about him and his future. We're going to be speaking about the past occasions between the two clubs, and also going to be speaking about one particular topic that I've covered in a previous video, and that is the new handball rule and VAR, which has helped Newcastle in favour of their North London rivals being defeated by it. So a lot to speak about today. We're going to get started straight away and speak about previous occasions. Now, Robbie, we're going to take a trip down memory lane here, because I've got two previous occasions where Arsenal and Rovers have met. One where Doncaster Rovers could have got something and we could have held our heads high after that game, and another one which took it to penalties. So this is going to be a trip down memory lane. He's at the side of me right now. We've got a trip down memory lane right now. So let's talk about this fixture. Let's see if you can remember this one. 1-0 cup match just a few years ago. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. It was, you gave us a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a much changed Arsenal, played a lot of youngsters, but still, you know, Doncaster really gave us a good run for our money on that day. So, yeah, I do remember that game.
Yeah, it was definitely a close one. And for those of you who need a reminder, and this is how much the squads have changed since that day, let's talk about the lineup. So, and this is going to, again, this is going to be a trip down memory lane for all of us. So, let's have a look at these lineups. So this was the Carabao Cup match, 1-0 win for Arsenal. So the team lineup was a 3-4-2-1. And it started for Arsenal with David Ospina in goal. See if you can remember that one. Back three of Callum Chambers, Pierre Mertesacker and Rob Holding. So, yeah, two players are still there. One's retired now. Reece Nelson on the right. Maitland-Niles on the left, El Neni and Wilshere in the midfield, and then we had Giroud up front, and behind Giroud, Theo Walcott and Alexis Sanchez.
Not a lot of players out of that lineup that are still there. Couple of young players there that have kind of gone on to become, you know, not fully established players yet, but like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, you know, who's playing quite a lot in the first team now. Rob Holding has had a lot of games, and Callum Chambers was having a lot of games, but he's been injured for quite a long time now. He's just making his way back. So, but apart from that, yeah, El Neni's still there, but the majority of that team gone.
There's been a lot of wholesale changes since then, and you've got to look at the subs bench as well. Alex Iwobi, Nacho Monreal, Chuba Akpom, Josh Da Silva, or Jay Da Silva, it just says Jay Da Silva, Matt Macy, Eddie Nketiah and Joe Willock. So still a few players there, but the likes of Iwobi, Monreal, Akpom, who's joined Middlesbrough recently, you know, a lot's gone from that bench as well.
The only players left off of that bench were the last three you named: Willock, the three youngsters, Willock, and who was the other two you named?
Nketiah and Macy.
Nketiah and Macy. Yeah, Macy's still here as well, backup goalkeeper. So some of those youngsters are still here. And Arsenal, you know, we've got a great tradition of bringing through young players. And unlike a lot of other Premier League teams, we actually play them, you know. So they actually do get a chance. You know, when you come through the Arsenal Academy, you do actually have a decent chance of making it into the, you know, if you're good enough, making it all the way to play, which is not the case with a lot of other Premier League teams. So you can see from that, as you said, that lineup, there's still a few players there that are knocking on the door at Arsenal.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a few youngsters like the Willocks and Nketiahs that are knocking on the door to take over in the first team in the future, maybe. All you Doncaster fans out there are probably thinking, what was the team for us back then? Well, I've got that written down as well. We were playing a 4-5-1 because we were under the management of Darren Ferguson at the time. Lawler in goal, of course he's out on loan at the minute. Back five, Tommy Rowe and Matty Blair on the right and left. Mason, Butler and Wright in the middle as centre-backs. Congolo, of course, on loan from Man City at that point. Ben Whiteman, Jordan Houghton, James Coppinger, who's in his last season now after 13, 14 years at the club, and Alfie May up front. And then we had on the bench Alcock, Marquise, Williams, Morosi, Mandeville, Toffolo and Garrett. So a lot of players that are not there anymore. Now this one will really take you back, Robbie. This is Donny versus Arsenal, 21st December 2005. A lot of players not there anymore. Arsenal won 3-1 on penalties, 1-1 at when we got into the extra time. This will take you back. So the Arsenal lineup was Almunia in goal, a centre-back three of Pascal Saigan, Johan Doidru and Philippe Senderos, a midfield of Emmanuel Abue, Gilberto Silva, Alexander Hleb, Alex Song, and then we had a midfield / forward Quincy Owosu Abayi, and then up front Arturo Lupoli and Robin van Persie, and then on the bench Mark Pawn, Kara Gilbert, Seb Larson, Fabrice Muamba and Nicholas Bentner. So a lot of changes between 2005 and now.
One of those players still there. And remember Fabrice Muamba, he was the one who got that heart attack that time playing football. But yeah, not one of those players. See, that just shows you the turnover of football. That shows you how short careers are for footballers. You know what I mean? They don't have a, you know what I mean? They have to really seize their opportunity when they get there because you're not there for that long. You know, so and that shows it. You know, but yeah, that was quite a strong team. Apart from at the back, I remember Manuel Almunia. And Pascal Saigan, oh gosh. Oh.
Could you imagine DT's reaction to that team? It was could you imagine DT's reaction to a 2020 version of that team?
Oh gosh! But having said that, we you know that team did also have some good players in there as well. So it was a bit of a mix. But yeah, I don't remember the game. I don't remember the game in 2005 that vividly. But obviously, I remember all those players. So, and I remember that team, that particular team. So
yeah, I mean, time's gone by so fast since that. I mean, you guys out there who are Donny fans are probably thinking, what was the team for us on that day? Like we said with the previous game, we had Jan Butz in goal. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's Danish, so my pronunciation's horrible. We've got a defence of Nick Fenton, Sean McDade, Steve Roberts and Steve Foster. In the midfield, Michael McIndoe, who was a legendary player for us. Ricky Ravenhill, of course his son's in the academy now with Liam Ravenhill. Sean Thornton and James Coppinger still in the team. He's been at the club for so long. Then up front there was Guy and Paul Heffernan, and then on the bench we had Tony Nielsen, Sam Ogie, Paul Green, Leo Fortune West and Neil Roberts. So again, a big change to the team apart from James Coppinger. And to be fair, that's something I wanted to discuss your thoughts on. I mean, James Coppinger, it's his last season at Rovers. He's played at the club for 13, 14, 15 years. And he's been at the club for so long. I mean, you know, this is his last season. If we do get promoted, it'll end on a high. I mean, 14 years at one club is very unheard of in the modern day of football.
Yeah, totally unheard of. I mean, you don't really get any players, well, especially up in the Premier League nowadays, that will stay at one club for that long. The turnover of players is just so much. So I can't think of any player. Maybe I don't think who's at our club. I can't think of any player that's been there. We had Emi Martinez, who left the other day. Actually for Villa, he'd been there for just over 10 years, and I think Bellerin has been there for I think it's about 9 years. He's been there quite a long time. But most players nowadays, you know, the way transfers are and stuff like that, and the way football clubs operate, I mean, you don't really care. You know, as soon as you start underperforming at the Premier League level, they'll bring someone else in to replace you. That's how it is. It's like a dog eat dog sort of thing. So you don't really see players last that long. I think thinking with other clubs, maybe what's his name at West Ham? He's been there for ages.
Mark Noble,
yeah, he's been there since he's a kid, so he's probably been there about that length of time or longer. But yeah, but most players, that loyalty is no longer there, not just from the players, but from the clubs either.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a big turnover in football at the minute. So moving from the past and into the present, obviously we've had games recently. Obviously we spoke about the EFL Cup game, that's tonight, so unfortunately that won't be discussed because the result will be in by the time this goes out. But we can talk about what's been our recent games, and of course the game that you guys just played as well. I mean, we won at the weekend just gone against Bristol Rovers 4-1, which was an incredible result. You guys know my review from that. But Liverpool winning 3-1 against Arsenal. I mean, I trust me, I've watched it back. Sadio Mane should have been red carded in my opinion. But that's no excuse for Arsenal. I mean, like fans have said it. I think DT has said it. Troops have said it. Arsenal didn't take their chances, and I think that's got to be the ultimate, you know, not excuse but blame for that performance, because you can't just put everything on a red card.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a red card, but you know, you have to get on with it once that red card's not given. You know what I mean? You get games like that. We've had, you know, stuff maybe when some of our players have been sent off. You just have to get on with it after that. And we didn't play well. Not even just the chance that that Lacazette failed to take. It's just we didn't have a good game. We didn't play well. And if you don't play well against Liverpool, you'll lose. I mean, simple as that. You can't have an off night against them because they're that good. So it was disappointing because we've been playing very well recently, but yeah, I just felt that we were a bit too negative in that game, and yeah, we just didn't turn up on the night. And as I said, you don't turn up against them, they're very good. So yeah, you know, it's not gonna. I don't think this season we are not going to be competing with Liverpool. They're still going to be in the running to win the title. Our aim, I feel, as Arsenal this year is to try and get back into the top 4. And when I look around the other teams that are in and around us, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, you could put Everton into that. You could put Leicester into that. Wolves. When I look around those teams, you know, and they're also going to be fighting for those 2 positions, because I think it will be Liverpool and City again going for the title. I think we've got a great chance of getting into that top 4. So it's not going to rest upon what you do away at Liverpool. But I think we could have done better. You know, we played Liverpool twice recently and beaten them. So, and we put in very good performances in those games, but you just can't have an off night against them. They're too good.
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, Liverpool's going to be a title contender. I think Man City, it's going to be a 2-horse race, but it will be closer, I think, this season. So, of course, since we're talking about both Arsenal and Rovers, I want to get your thoughts on a particular player that I know Rovers fans are very excited about at the minute. Before this season, he hadn't scored a single goal in senior football. He's played in 4 different countries. I remember he used to be at Leeds United a few years ago. He's played in Croatia, and he came to us the season before. Didn't score a goal in senior football, and now he's scored 3 or 4 goals in 6 appearances in all competitions at the minute. And that is, of course, the Spanish Magic De Bruyne himself, Magic Gomez. I mean, he scored a 20-yarder against Bristol Rovers. He scored, 12-yarder against Bristol Rovers. He scored a 20-yarder against Charlton the previous weekend in the 3-1 win. I mean, Magic Gomez is just turning out to be, you know, one of those players that's going to do well for us this season, and another player that seems to be doing very well. in the Bristol Rovers game, even though he didn't score. But the Charlton game, he scored an absolutely brilliant solo effort. It's your youngster, Tyrese john-jules. Forget Dominic Calvert-Lewin in DCL. It's TJJ.
John-Jules is a very good player. You've got a very good player on loan. He, in the youth ranks at Arsenal, he's a regular goal scorer, prolific. Really thought of highly by the coaches at the under-23 level, and they wanted him to go and get a lot of game time with a club because they think, they rate him. They don't want to just sell him. They rate him. They think that he does have a possible pathway to get into the first team. He was training with the first team. I remember being on the tour. Was it last year? I think it was last year's tour. He was playing. He was playing with the first team, training with them. He played a few games on that tour, and he looked good. And then I think he went on loan to Lincoln because they wanted to get him on loan, get him games, and then he had a really bad injury that just took him out for the rest of the season. And then he ended up coming back, which was a real shame. But there's if you speak to a lot of the coaches and people around who watch that under-23 football regularly at Arsenal, they rate him just as highly as Eddie Nketiah. They think he's a really, really good goal scorer, and he's a nice kid as well. I've met him a couple of times, and I think that's a very, very good signing that you've got there. He's a player, gets his head down, concentrates on what he's got to do. So he's, you get some players, they go on loan, they sulk a bit. They're like, oh, what am I doing here? I should be at Arsenal. I should be, knocking on the door of the first team. But I don't think he's that type of kid. I think he's the type of kid who's going to get his head down and want to impress there, really want to put in some impressive performances so that one day he can hopefully come back to Arsenal and get into the first team. Because as I said, if you look at Arsenal, we're one of the very few teams in the Premier League that does give chances to young players. So if you look at the current team at the moment, Eddie Nketiah is playing lots of first team football. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, lots of first team football. Saka, who also used to play with John-Jules, is one of our best players at the moment. And I was disappointed that he didn't play the other night against Liverpool. He, again, come through the same ranks and sees his opportunity when he's got that first team chance, and is now a regular in the team. So the opportunity is there for John-Jules if he goes and plays well for Doncaster, and then he could hopefully then come back and try and get into that Arsenal first team. If you've got a striker that's doing well, saves the club a lot of money. So so a hungry John-Jules is going to be good for Doncaster because he's going to want to impress down there, and if he impresses down there, that only helps Arsenal. The thing I always think about it as well now with young academy players is that they look at their football career and they look on it. They want, if you're coming from Arsenal, you want to make it into Arsenal's first team. That's your ultimate dream, yeah. But you also want to be a professional footballer playing at the highest level. So if you go on loan and you do really, really well, even if you don't end up coming back to Arsenal and getting back into the first team, you can potentially get the move to another Premier League club. And there's been lots of Arsenal academy players that have got moves to other Premier League clubs or top championship clubs and stuff like that. And it's about their career, So, yeah, it's a massive opportunity for John-Jules. And as I said, I think he'll be hungry. He's a lot of missed opportunity because of the literally being out for a season with injury. Now he's got another bite at doing something. I think it's a very shrewd signing.
Yeah, I think John-Jules is really proving himself at the minute, and obviously you guys that are Donny fans will know he's been doing fantastically recently, so hopefully you can continue that. Here we go. This is going to be a big debate. Let's move aside a little bit away from Arsenal and Rovers. Let's talk about something that's been dominating the headlines in football recently, and that is, of course, this new handball rule involved with VAR. Now, the rules, they've been there for, over 100 years. They've not been changed until VAR was introduced. And I think the big argument that's been going around football recently, and I think it's one big point to make, it's not VAR that's the problem, it's the people running it. And the handball rules being changed, and it adds extra pressure to those defenders to play a specific way, and it just takes the excitement out of the game. And one big thing that I wanted to come across in this video was, would Doncaster Rovers be a future Premier League team? And I want to look on that a little bit later in the show. But sort of talking about this handball rule, it kind of makes me worry if Doncaster Rovers are going to be a Premier League team in the future with this fluent attacking football that Darren Moore's bringing at the minute, that's getting a bit of attention from the people that's running the EFL on Quest show at the minute over recent weeks. I do worry if VAR's going to take the excitement out of Doncaster, which is something that's always been there. So, what do you think about this handball rule? And, you know, I've watched the Spurs one back, and even though they're a North London rival and you can't help but banter them, you do feel sorry for them because they've been outdone by a decision that should have been countered. Brighton against Man United was a penalty. Spurs wasn't. And I think Crystal Palace's Roy Hodgson can argue theirs wasn't as well.
I thought it was a great rule. When that penalty was given against Spurs, I thought, fantastic. Yeah, I'm all for this rule, right? But seriously, it's ridiculous. You know, that one for Spurs, as much as I have to admit, I was laughing my head off, right? Because, you know, in a game, it was typical Spurs. You know, Newcastle had no shots on target and still got a draw, right? So, but when I looked at it, even at the time, I was like, that's ridiculous. The guy's not even, it was Eric Dyer, he's not even looking in the direction. He's jumping. Somebody from behind him has headed the ball onto his hand. How can
he's not even looking at the ball. Like he's turned away from the ball.
But he's looking in the other direction. He's looking at the ball, and it's gone over his head, and the ball's been headed against his arm. What can he do about that? Absolutely, you know. And I don't know why this rule change has come in. It used to be back in the day. It had to be a deliberate handball, and I think that's what it should be. You know what I mean? Because if you start having it like it is now, you've got players that are skillful enough, you know, to kick the ball onto somebody's hand to win a penalty. You know what I mean? Somebody like a Kevin De Bruyne will easily be able to do that. You know what I mean? Somebody like a Pepe or a Aubameyang, who are very skillful players, they'll practice that in training, how to kick the ball against somebody's hand and make it look like a penalty. For me, what was wrong with what it was before? It has to be a deliberate handball. And that one wasn't deliberate. It was a complete accident. You know what I mean? He's not even looking at the ball. The Palace one, same. That one, a penalty for me. And, you know, then you just start to wonder, what is a penalty? You don't even know no more. I mean, in the game against Liverpool, the goal that Jota scored, I thought that was handball. He's rolled down, his slight control on his hand to score the goal, but it's given. I honestly, now, at the moment, the problem is that we do not know what is handball and what is not handball, and that's what the big problem is. Not VAR. I actually think VAR, and I've been quite controversial on it before. I actually think VAR is a good thing if it is run properly, because you see so many. I remember we played Manchester United last season, and we had a goal that was given offside. That when you look back on it on the VAR, Aubameyang was a mile onside. It wasn't even close, and it was reversed. And when it works like that, there's still a lot of tweaks and that need to be made to VAR. But I think it is fairer to have VAR. But I think people will eventually get used to VAR. But all these other rule changes that they're doing in the background, and it's not really, you can't even blame it on the referees. You can't really blame it. You know, they get all the blame for it. But those decisions have come from like FIFA, UEFA. They come from very high up. They're the ones that change like the laws of the game. And then basically the referees have to implement it. And if they don't implement it, then they won't be able to referee games. They'll be, you know, so you can't even blame them. But it's absolutely ridiculous that the handball, what, you know, has to be a deliberate handball. End of. Just leave it at that. And try and get it right as to do with that. But if you get decisions like the one the other day, and the problem is about it is there's more to come, because this law is not going to change for now. I see that the Premier League are trying to lobby I think it's FIFA or UEFA to change it. But from what I understood is there's no way it can be changed until at least March next year or something. That's what I heard from somebody. But it's not going to change for now, which means there's more of these incidents coming, because you get in loads of games, you get the ball being kicked against somebody's hand in the box. And it's not a deliberate handball, but you're going to see a lot of these giving us penalties. If I'm a footballer, or if I'm a manager, in training, I'm getting my players to practice it. Kicking it against players' hands, right? It's a weapon, you know what I mean? It's not really right to do, but the rule is so ridiculous that I'd be like, yeah, learn how to do it, because, you know, we can win a penalty, a game out of it. Foolishness.
I don't agree with it, and to be fair, it's one of the many reasons why I love that League One doesn't have things like VAR and goal line technology, but there's instances where that can come and jinx me, but we'll get to that bridge when we get to it. And to be fair, just to extend on that, I mean, there was a couple of big talking points on the back of these decisions, and sort of get your thoughts on them. Ex-players saying they want to get involved with the rules and help them get involved and help get involved with the game now they're not playing anymore. And Steve Bruce said it after the Spurs Newcastle game. He said that it was there to help. VAR was there to help. VAR was there to be the logistical end to it. But it's gone way beyond that, and it's like VAR's taking the assistant referee's job. It's taken the referee's job, and there was one big talking point with the referee, because even though VAR might not help the referees, it's still being run sometimes by previous refs. And there's one big thing I've always said to people, and I don't think it's been discussed on YouTube at the minute. There's a reason why there's no English referees at international competitions like the World Cup, like the Champions League, like the Europa League, because the refereeing in this country is not up to European standard.
Yeah, well, the referees, they're referees in. I don't know about down in where you guys are playing. The referees in the Premier League are poor. That's my opinion. Yeah? I mean, they make some very poor decisions. And as I said, I think VAR is a good thing. As football moves on, as football evolves, as football gets quicker, the referees need help. And I think VAR is a good thing. It just needs refining. It just needs, some of it, some of the offside bits need refining and be a bit clearer. But I think it is right that, if a goal's scored, you just do and the speed of it needs to be better. But I do think it's right. If a goal's scored, a quick check needs to be done just to make sure that it was a legal goal. I think, there's so much at stake. I don't mind that. I just want it to be quicker. I want it to be quicker, I want it to be done really quick. But I don't mind that, because I think you have to have it now. We're all watching it on TV. So sometimes there can be a clear mistake that is, referees are human beings. And if the VAR aids and helps them out, like, for instance, we've seen this season, and this is where I'm saying where VAR is evolving, that the referees now are running over to the screen to double check some of these decisions. For some weird reason last year, they weren't doing it. Everybody else in Europe were doing it. We weren't doing it here. Now, all of a sudden, with the introduction of that, they're getting more decisions right, because somebody at the VAR place is saying to me, you know what, this is a hard one. You made the decision on the pitch, go and check it. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. So if it's used right, I think in the long term, it's going to be a good thing. But, and let's be real, right? Even before VAR, there was a lot of bad decisions. That's what football's all about. There's lots of controversial decisions. There's lots of decisions we don't agree with. It's always been like that. So, and I think sometimes when you hear a lot of the ex-players moaning, they're thinking about it in their day. But things have changed a lot since those times. And with the technology that exists in the world right now, I see nothing wrong with having VAR. But I just want it used better, more efficiently. And in that way, they'll be able to get the majority of the decisions right. And I think, I think they did a survey on it last year, and it does get a lot more decisions right than what was previously done. So that's a good thing. But obviously, because it's quite a new thing, it's always going to stand out. But The handball thing, which, like you said right at the start, is not a VAR thing. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that is something that needs to be changed with immediate effect.
Yeah, I definitely think that the handball rule needs changing. I mean, down in League One, like you were saying, you didn't know about the refereeing quality. There is some bad decisions in League One. I think there was a couple of things in back-to-back Donny Rovers games. I think the referee for the Bristol Rovers game, I think we were on the attack about to score a 5th goal, and they blew the final whistle, and we were kind of like, I'm glad we won, but they could have at least played it on so we can make it 5-1. Let's get an extra couple of goals from the Charlton match. But no, I think the refereeing quality needs improving, and I think VAR is the right thing, but it needs to be, ran properly. I think I agree with you on that one. So moving on then, and please download the Flick app and get AFTV on Flick, because it's a great app. I've downloaded it myself. I'm on that chat a few times when I've got time, so I'm always there. And if you want to do a poll on this, Robbie, feel free as a little bit of an outsider poll. Do you think Doncaster Rovers will be a Premier League team? Because at the minute we're craving Darren Moore's free flow attacking football, playing out from the back. He's got the right positions, playing the right way and the right tactics. And like I said earlier, EFL on Quest, I was watching the highlights from the previous weekend. Colin Murray, Dean Ashton, Simon Grayson, they were starting to take note of Doncaster Rovers over these last couple of weeks, and we're finally getting the notice that we deserve about potential promotion contenders, and people are calling us to say potentially we could be title contenders and go up to the Championship. And I've always been optimistic as a fan. I've always said in the next 10, 15, 20 years I want to see Rovers at least one season in Premier League football. And again, like I said, feel free to do a poll on this if you want, but can Doncaster Rovers be a Premier League team?
You got a good manager. He done a great job at West Brom, and it was unbelievable when they sacked him. I met him as well. Really nice guy. Really tall, I tell you.
Yeah.
I'm quite tall. I'm like 6'1". I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't realise he was that tall.
I'm like 6'2", 6'3", so I'd be getting up there, but not as tall as Darren Moore.
He's a big guy, man. But obviously it's good that he's back in management, and I thought he got treated really badly by West Brom, because he did, under terrible circumstances there, he did very, very well. And I'm really glad to see that he's back and doing well as well. And I think, listen, he's a driven guy. He's very, very knowledgeable, in football. Of course, he used to be at West Brom for years, as a real top player there. So you've got a good chance with him. Definitely got a good chance with him.
Yeah, and I mean, you as Arsenal fans might not know about this, but we've been under really bad ownership back in the late 90s, when Bergkamp was flying and earning $100,000 a week, and $100,000 a week. That's our players don't even earn that now, and we were in an era where we were under a guy called Ken Richardson. And we were under the management of Mark Weaver, and a Uruguayan striker in the Spanish division, top scorer in the Spanish division for a couple of seasons in the 60s, as a coach called Danny Bergara. And at that time, he had put all his financial assets into the club. He brought them back out. He decided to put no money into the club. He was charged with arson for burning down one of the stands, or conspiracy to commit arson. And on the final day against Colchester, we were bowing out of the league. We were going to have the worst record ever. If we didn't complete the fixture, the club might not cease to exist. We were having pitch invasions. We had a funeral procession on the way to the ground on the old Bellevue before it was demolished for the new stadium back in 2007. We had so much negativity. We had Weaver having to leave the ground 20 minutes into the second half of that game because of his police safety, out of his own safety, because he said he wasn't going to go to the game. Then he came with a large group of minders. It was such a negative atmosphere, and then John Ryan came in, took the club up, brought us up. We beat Leeds in that playoff final, getting into the Championship for the first time in 50 years. We've been teetering between League One, for the last few years. We had one season in League Two, but that's because we were playing poorly with a poor squad and a poor tactic. But like you said, we've got a fresh attacking intent, and under the current board, we've got. Obviously, you guys have your own opinions about Stan Kroenke, but our boards are the kind of boards. Our board is, they don't sell us any BS. They always tell us exactly what's going on. They tell us, about contracts, about transfers, and we'll get on about transfers a little bit towards the end, from both clubs' side of things. But you know, they were very open and honest about the towards the fans. And I've said this in past videos. I mean, you guys have probably heard it on past videos. If we were in the Premier League, we could be an example as to how to run a football club to the likes of Newcastle, to the likes of West Ham, and to the extent of Arsenal sometimes. If they don't back a manager and they don't tell the fans what's going on at the right time, that's not the right way to run a football club. So could we be an example with this current board? With the right amount of backing that we've got at the minute, could we be an example to the rest of the Premier League to say, hey, hang on a minute, this is how you run a football club and this is how you include the fans into the club? Because we don't feel like we're below the board. We feel like we're on the same level of the board. We're like a whole community at the minute.
Well, that's fantastic. You know, and what you described about your previous owner, you know, Jesus, I thought Kroenke was bad. He said it doesn't even come nowhere near to that. I mean, the key to a successful football club is it needs to be run properly. All the best football clubs, Liverpool at the moment, are doing so well because it's run very well. From transfers to everything, it's run right. So if your club is run right, you've got a great chance of success. And it's as simple as that. So with what you're describing there, how the clubs run, if that's how the fans feel towards the board, that's amazing, because you named out a few examples there, including Arsenal. I think Arsenal, the problem is not so much that it's run badly. I think sometimes at Arsenal there's been more, the communication is an issue, and a lot of that's to do with the owner lives so far away in America, and he's one of these owners that stays pretty quiet. He doesn't really communicate with the fans, and that leads to a lot of resentment. And you've got all the pressures of the Premier League and the fact that we pay very high season ticket prices, and it was a club that was extremely successful for a very long time, and we're going through a dip. But in anything you do, communication is the absolute key, especially when you're running a football club. And it sounds like the communication at Doncaster Rovers is good. Sounds like it's run well, and that is the key. You know, the key component in a successful football club. And there's badly run clubs like Newcastle, like what you named out and stuff like that, where it's not run well and the communication is not good. So even sometimes when they're doing good things, nobody knows. Nobody really, you know, because they're not communicating it. So, yeah, I think you've got the ingredients there for success, by the sounds of that.
Yeah, and it's great to get that opinion from Premier League fans. And, you know, hopefully we can meet each other again in a league fixture. So because I want to get your predicted lineup for the Sheffield United game this weekend. But before we do that, transfers, deadline day on Monday. I mean, it's going to be, you know, absolutely crazy. I mean, we know Doncaster's going to go in for a right back and a centre midfielder. You guys are going in for some interesting transfers as well, because Houssem Aouar, and you've got Thomas Partey. I mean, he could still come to the club. And of course, on the way out, you've got Socrates on the list, Guendouzi and Ozil maybe, Torreira nearing a move to Atletico Madrid, possibly on loan, possibly permanent, and Kolasinac could be nearing edge to a move to Bayern Leverkusen from the reports. So a lot of transfer activity about Arsenal and Rovers as well. But in terms of Arsenal transfer activity, I mean, is Arteta getting the players? Do you think Aouar and Partey or one of them will come? And in terms of the outs, obviously Torreira is probably going to go, but the likes of Kolasinac, Guendouzi, Ozil, do you think their time has come? Because in my opinion, I think Ozil should be on the way out because of, you know, not playing. And, you know,
he should be on the way out. He won't. He should be on the way out. He won't be on the way out though, I don't think. He's on a lot of money, so and nobody's going to match that money. He's got 1 year left on his deal, Ozil, so I think he'll stay till the end of his contract. Houssem Aouar would be a great signing. I think that might happen. Obviously, dealing with the Lyon president, very difficult. But I do think that is going to happen. They bought a replacement for Aouar already, so they're anticipating him leaving. And even though there's been a couple other clubs like Juventus and that coming interested for him, I do think it's going to be Arsenal that will get him. Thomas Partey, I don't know. I don't know if we'll have funds to get that one done. There may be some other sort of, Arsenal always pull something out of their hat, so you never know. Might happen before the end of the transfer window, and there is a lot of players that need to leave that, you know, they're trying to get rid of. I don't think they're going to be able to get rid of all of them, but I do think there will be some like Torreira, like you said, they're Kolasinac, Socrates. I think there's going to be a good 4 or 5 players on the move out of Arsenal. There could be a couple others going out on loan. We've got a very big squad at the moment. A lot of players where their contracts are nearing the end that I think, Arsenal want to move them on, but the problem is they've been not great over the years, so they don't have a high value. It's not really teams scrambling to buy some of these players. But Arsenal want to move as many of them on as possible, get some funds in, get them off the wage bill, so that Mikel Arteta can start rebuilding the team that he wants and to play in the style that he wants. So that's not going to happen this summer. There'll be 1 or 2 signings maybe, but it's going to take him. I think it's going to take him about 3-4 transfer windows until he can actually say, "This is my team. This is it. This is what I want." All the players that I've bought here are the players that I have said, "Yeah, it's my team." So that won't happen this year. But transfer window is always exciting at Arsenal because you never know what's going to happen. Our fans get into a right frenzy over transfers. I'm not sure there's another club that gets into frenzies over transfers like us. I remember when we signed Aubameyang, there was fans tracking his plane all the way from leaving Germany to landing at Luton Airport. I don't know how they did it, but they did. So they're unbelievable, our fans, when it comes to transfers. I swear, I do a program every day, Transfer Daily. It's off the meter every day of the summer with fans, wanting to find out what the latest transfer news are. And we get linked with practically every player going. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it should be very interesting last few days of the transfer window for us. So I do think it's going to be quite busy for us. More for players going out because, as I said, there's quite a lot of players that need to be moved on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a busy one. I think in terms of Rovers, I think deadline day won't be as busy as Arsenal, but I think we've already done our business, so I think that we just need a couple more signings, and if not, we can just look towards January. So to end the video then, this is where we get our predicted lineups. I did the same with the Charlton match with the Charlton fan Tyler Rowlandson. Obviously you guys can check out that video, the first episode of DRFC Fan Talk. Let's talk about the predicted lineup for Sheffield United, because obviously we've got 2 different games. We're facing Wigan, you guys are facing Sheffield United. One current Premier League team and another former Premier League team we've got with their brand new owners. So congratulations, you've reached a bid with the Spanish owners, Wigan. But let's talk about Sheffield United, because that's going to be, even though they haven't won so far this season in the first 3 games, it's going to be a tough one. So in terms of, we'll go through it position by position, then we'll sort of talk about the subs bench. So in goal, who are we thinking here in terms of the goalkeeper position?
It'll be Leno in goal. I think we'll play we'll still go with a back 3, which will be, I think, David Luiz, Gabriel, Rob Holding. 2 wing backs. I think Kieran Tierney on the left, Bellerin on the right. A midfield of Dani Ceballos and Granit Xhaka. And then up front, I think it will be Willian on the right, Aubameyang on the left, and Lacazette down the middle. I think that's going to be the team that we'll go against Sheffield United. We need to win that game, even though even despite the defeat to Liverpool, we've had a good start to the season. So if we win that game, we'll go into the international break with 3 wins out of 4, 9 points on the boards. I think that would be very satisfactory. Well, more than satisfactory, be very good. Because Liverpool at Anfield's always a tough game. Liverpool at Emirates, we have a good record again. We do all right, but going to Anfield, they haven't lost there since 2017, so it's always a tough place. So I think if we can beat Sheffield United, I really do think we're going to have a go at that game, and we have to pressure Sheffield United. Sheffield United haven't won a game yet this season. They had a great season last year, but they have not played well this season at all. They played a lot better. I saw their game against Leeds last week. They did, in spells, play pretty well, but I looked at them and I think they're definitely a team that can be got at. And last time we played them in the FA Cup quarterfinals. We went to Sheffield United and we beat them. They got a draw of us at the Emirates earlier in the season, which I thought was a bit dodgy as well. We should have had a penalty in that game as well. That was another terrible decision right near the end. Pepe should have had a penalty, but we drew with them. So they're a tough opposition. Chris Wilder, I think, is a good manager, but I think he's finding out now. The problem is, right, when you come up to the Premier League, that second season, the managers, the coaching staff around the teams, they sit down and they start to work you out. They start to work out what you do well and what you don't do well. You know what I mean? You're no longer a surprise package. And I think that's what's happening to Sheffield United, you know. And I think Sheffield United are affected by there being no fans at their ground. Because when I went there last year, it was a great atmosphere. The fans really are 12th man. So I'm confident that we can get a win in that game, but I think we'll go with a very, very strong team, looking for all 3 points.
Yeah, I think that Sheffield United is going to be a tough one for Arsenal. Obviously, you guys are going to see my predicted lineup for Doncaster Rovers against Wigan Athletic. That'll be the second video coming out on the Friday, which is, of course, today as you're watching this. So yeah, I mean, that's everything. So Robbie, thank you again so much for everything you do, first of all, for giving fans of Arsenal a voice, like I want to try and do on fans back in the stadiums at Rovers. And, you know, again, thanks for coming on DRFC Fan Talk. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries, man. Thank you very much for having me, and good luck to Doncaster Rovers. As I said, good luck to john-jules. Really good kid, and I think he's going to do very well for you. And Darren Moore as well. Great manager. I'll tell you, really nice guy. And, you know, I'd really like to see him do well, because, as I said, I thought he was treated pretty badly by West Brom after all the great things he did there. And, you know, for Doncaster Rovers to show faith in him and to give him a job, I think he will do something special. A really good manager, really good manager. So I think he's one of those managers who really motivates his players as well. They really like playing for him. So with the setup that you've described there, you know, you've got a great chance. You've got a great chance of doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, potentially in a few years' time, I literally cannot wait to do a fan cam with you in a Premier League match at the Keepmoat Stadium. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. You've got a nice stadium there. I've seen your stadium before, and that's one of the stadiums I've never been to. So I've been to a lot of stadiums, obviously, around the country. I'd love to come to that stadium. So yeah, you know, you never know, man. Mate, it could even be this. It could be a FA Cup game this year. You never know. But mind you, there's no fans, is there? I keep forgetting. Well, yeah, we'll have to do a Zoom call fan cam instead.
But yeah, you know, it would be great. It would be great to come up there. So yeah, you never know.
And yeah, and to be fair, if fans are back in the stadiums or not, I'd love to get you, DT, Troops, Ty, all of you on my channel to discuss a game against Rovers after the match as well.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, so thank you very much, guys, for watching. I told you guys you'd be excited about this video. I told you you'd be excited about this. So thank you very much. Make sure you tune into AFTV. The link to the channel and the Flick chat will be in the description below the video, so you guys can check them out. Check out their Twitter, their Instagram. They'll all be in the description down below. And for now, guys, I am the CHALL, your content for Doncaster Rovers Football Club. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.